Please rewind this cassette.
I've just got to say it at this point. What the fuck happened to this show? I mean, seriously, what happened? Was it Seth Rogen? Was it Eric Kripke? Is it a victim of its own success? We'll take a look at an article later by Forbes, which says this is the third highest rated show across all of streaming right now. So without question, The Boys has become predictably, as we all said who were fans of the first season. I said it in my video review from a year ago, and other people all said it, that this was going to be like the next big show. This was going to be the Stranger Things or Game of Thrones for Amazon Prime. And it's become that because the first season was so good. And this week-to-week release strategy has actually really paid off for them because everyone's talking about each episode like me, like I'm a dipshit who talks about it every week. I thought that episode 6 really helped get the show back to a certain level of quality. Not as great as it's ever been, but pretty damn good. One of the better episodes of the show. Now with this episode that's been loved across the board, people are saying that this is the red wedding of The Boys. I keep reading that everywhere because of the last scene, that this is the red wedding of The Boys. What's the name of this fucking episode? Let me look. Butcher, Baker, Candlestick, Maker. Okay. So, Butcher, Baker, Candlestick, Maker. That's a fun. Butcher, Baker, Candlestick, Maker. Butcher, Baker, Candlestick, Maker. Butcher, Baker, Candlestick. I don't know how to say this without it coming across as like I'm Geeks and Gamers or something like that. And I'm not hating on the guy. I've been on a live stream with that guy, and he's a cool dude, Jeremy. The first part of this episode is propaganda. It's what it is. It's propaganda. I don't want to make it that way, but it is. The white guy staying at home watching Stormfront and Homelander talk about super terrorists, super jihadists, and him going out with a gun and killing an immigrant who runs a store, and then Stormfront and Homelander reacting to it like, oh, these SJWs, they you know, these SJWs want to stop us from opposing the real problem. And I've seen so many critics who are praising this season, saying, making brilliant parallels to our current state of America, and being an indictment on white supremacy and the Trumpian era. And I thought for the most part this show wasn't preachy. I thought that was something I really liked about it, was that they made fun of liberals, they made fun of conservatives for sure. They made fun of corporate America, where they satirized it, they make fun of it, they just showed it for the evil that it is. So I had no issue with any of that stuff. Our fetishism, our over-obsession with superhero culture in general, and how it's toxic in a lot of ways. Although I'm not necessarily sure why it's toxic, unless you just want more art house movies. But for the most part, I get it. This was the first time it felt preachy to me. How am I supposed to take that any other way? You can say in the comments, explain to me I'm wrong. How am I not supposed to take that as them saying white guys in this country right now are being radicalized by Trump, by whoever, to go out and kill people who don't look like them, be it African Americans, immigrants, what have you? That's the message I took from this. And it wasn't like it wasn't a tense, dramatically well done sequence. You know, the guy slowly building up to doing it and then going in there, and it was very human. He didn't want to do it, but, you know, he's like, you're one of those terrorists, you know, tell me. I get all that. You're one of those supervillains I keep hearing about. You know, they did it with a lot of class, and it's better than what Zack Snyder would have ever done. Still, though, at this point, Stormfront just being the villain, being this Nazi, and Homelander teaming up with her to be a Nazi, I guess now. It just came across as, I mean, I know they use SJW very cute. You know, a lot of Hollywood leftists now like to be like, oh, snowflake or SJW, they like to use the pejoratives like they own them now. And it's like, isn't it ridiculous that anyone ever used these against us? Look how stupid they are. The people who say these things are Nazis, like Stormfront. She says it, but really it's just because she wants white supremacy. It put a bad taste in my mouth, and not in the way that I like the show to put a bad taste in my mouth. This was like somebody coming in my mouth without consent. Very unhappy with that, all right? Very unpleasant experience. Not that I would know anything about that. Anyway, hated that. Hated that fucking opening. That was preachy. That felt like Seth Rogen bullshit. And I can't take it, but the commentary is America is filled with white supremacy right now. And white guys are being radicalized to go kill people that aren't white. That's the message I took from it. Not that in this universe that's happening, but in our universe that's happening. Which is a dangerous, misguided, and quite frankly, it's not backed up by evidence, that message. There's not enough evidence of all these young guys being radicalized and going out and shooting store clerks and stuff like that. It was completely out of left field for where the show had been going. I don't mind the show dealing with white supremacy or Nazis or any of that stuff. I'm fine with all of that. I think it's fun. I think it's important. I think it's entertaining, what have you. Didn't like that. So you say, what about the rest of the episode, Pat? I mean, that's just one part. That's just the beginning of it. What about the rest of it? The rest of it's the fucking Red Wedding. You know, the Red Wedding didn't start out great, right? The Reigns of Castamere. The rest of the episode's a fucking mess. It just is. Lamplighter is a character I was really starting to like with Shawn Ashmore. And him watching porn with Huey and the way he was acting was fucking hilarious. And everybody gets split up again because fuck these characters being intelligent whatsoever. I mean, I'm going to shit on this episode, guys. I'm sorry. Even if there was some good moments. So Butcher goes off to have this relationship with his father that's been bad for years, and his mother's trying to get them to talk to each other before the father dies of cancer. Starlight gets taken by Black Noir in a very Spider-Man 2 sequence, where she's meeting her mother. So a lot of it's about people reforming relationships with parental figures, because that's a theme throughout the episode as well. Butcher is trying to deal with the fact that he totally hates his fucking cunt father. And, you know, I mean, he puts him up against a wall at one point, and he's like, you know, we're never going to talk to each other again. Stormfront is talking to her mother, and then Lamplighter throughout the episode talks about his father, that he wanted to make his father proud. So that's the running theme throughout the episode. A lot of it is how these parents haven't raised these children. It goes even deeper than that, with Homelander and Stormfront going to Becca's house where Ryan's at, and Homelander and Becca having a conversation about this outside, where, you know, he's like, hey, I'm going to take him on roller coasters. I'm going to take him out to see the world. And Stormfront's like, you can go whenever you want, do whatever you want, just looking at Becca like, fuck you, bitch. And she's telling Homelander, like, listen, he needs a mother. I don't want him to end up like you. You know what happened with you. You didn't have a proper upbringing. Let him stay here with me so we have one chance at this. Please. So there was a theme in this episode, okay, just like last week's episode. So I like that. This was about parents and lineage and how you can screw your kids up. So all of these people are screwed up children in a sense. Lamplighter is messed up because he can't make his father happy. He turned into the thing he didn't want to be. Butcher screwed up because of his dead brother and his father being a piece of garbage, and it's screwed him up morally in a lot of ways. Starlight is untrustworthy of people because she can't trust her mother, who betrayed her whole life. And then, of course, Homelander, who was raised in a lab, is conflicted with what to do with Ryan. And he wants to take Ryan off with him and Stormfront and have their own little family, because he didn't get to have a family when he was a kid, so he wants to be able to have his family now. So that was a good thing in the episode, right? But it's the execution of all of these things. all the stuff with Billy's family, it's not like it's bad, but I don't care. I don't give a shit about Butcher's father, and I really don't care about his mother. These are non-characters. They're just throwing in Butcher's backstory. Dare I say that I preferred Billy when I didn't know who his parents were, and I didn't know his aunt, and I didn't know all this shit about him? That he was more interesting as a mystery, and now he's just a guy. Okay? He's just a motherfucking guy. And beyond that, Huey going with Lamplighter to break into Vought to get Starlight. That could have been a cool sequence, right? Even though it seems kind of insane that they were able to get in there so easily by just putting his hand on a thing. And then they were allowed. It's like, really, the security isn't better at this place? They don't have cameras everywhere? I mean, even with the dialogue, we used to bring high school girls back here or whatever, college girls or something like that. So they break in there. Starlight's trapped in a room where she can't get out because there's no electricity and stuff like that. So then Lamplighter just burns himself in front of the statues of the seven. He's like, I wanted to do it in front of my own statue. I just wanted my father to be proud of me. Okay. So let's kill off a really interesting character in the lamest way possible. He just burns himself, and then Huey's like, you're a fucking asshole, which was a funny line of dialogue, to be fair. And then Huey cuts his hand off to go through, which I've seen before in other movies and television shows, so that wasn't an original idea. I've seen the take a body part. Demolition Man did that shit with the guy's eye. So that wasn't very creative, but at least it was something. So then Starlight ends up escaping with Huey, but then Black Noir attacks her, and then Queen Maeve shows up to save the day, who's been vaping. Yeah, hold on one sec. Yeah, Queen Maeve's been, like, vaping, and she's fucking guys again. She's like, ooh, Ashley, leave me alone. I have to vape and fuck guys now. And then, in the best moment Queen Maeve's had the entire season, she shows up to save Starlight. It actually keeps her from being killed by Black Noir. And then she puts a candy bar in his mouth because he has a peanut allergy or something with peanut butter in it. I don't know if it was a bar with peanuts in it or a health bar. So, and Black Noir's mascot moved up, and it was clear that he doesn't look like a clone of Homelander. Also, if he was a clone of Homelander, I'm pretty sure he would be able to take on Queen Maeve a lot easier. So I guess that plot twist is out the window, which is fine with me. That doesn't bother me. So then she goes off on her own. I'm assuming she's going to die in the finale. And then Starlight escapes with Huey. And Lamplighter, who was going to testify against Vought, has burned himself. So they're fucked. So they go back and talk to that guy who was in season 1, who I thought died at the end of season 1, where Homelander was like, I squeezed the truth out of him, but I guess he just broke his fucking legs. So first, the main chick of the group goes to talk to him, and he tells her to fuck off. Then Billy goes out there, and he's like, listen, I'm going to kill everyone in your family if you don't do this, which was a nice Billy moment, even though, once again, this guy has no security. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that Billy can just walk in there and threaten this guy. Or that this guy even lets Billy in. Why doesn't he just tell him to fuck off? He lives in a gated fucking house. Just get some security. Like, I'm serious. Like, what the hell? Why is everyone just easily letting people near them? Why is it so easy to get in everywhere? Why are the boys even hiding underground and shit like that or doing anything if it's so fucking easy to get anywhere? So then Billy threatens the guy in a very fun sequence. So then that guy's going to go testify against Vought about Compound V. And of course, this is the father returning to Homelander, and Homelander's like a scared child at the end of this episode watching this happen. Then we also get some stuff with the Deep and A-Train not trusting exactly the cult that they've joined because Eagle Heart, or whatever his name is, he's been kicked out and he's turned on them, and it makes them start to question. Especially A-Train is beginning to question what's going on with these people and if they're being upfront with exactly what they're doing. Which, honestly, that subplot and everything that was happening in that episode, I really didn't have an issue with. So, everything with Huey and Lamplighter was pretty fun. It was entertaining. It wasn't the worst thing. It just seemed very convenient how everything got executed. Breaking in to get Starlight and how easily she was able to get out of there and how easily Black Noir went down. It just wasn't great writing. It was okay. It was certainly not as bad as episode 4 and 5. It was entertaining. But then you have the ridiculous fucking scene with Homelander, Stormfront, and Becca, which is just so quickly done. And, we hardly see Becca and Ryan for, like, the last couple episodes. Homelander doesn't give a fuck about these two. Then out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, this is Daddy's new girlfriend, so you want to come with Daddy? And then she's like, oh, look at this beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed child. I think he might be good for our cause. So there's just this ridiculous, like, few minutes where Stormfront's just being a bitch to Becca and, like, you can do whatever you want. I'm your new mommy now. And it's so obvious where this is going. There's no tension in this. It just makes Becca look like a fucking idiot that she didn't leave with Billy. Because what was her point? Stay here and raise this kid where we're constantly under the threat of being murdered by Homelander, who can do whatever the hell he wants because Vought has no way of protecting us from this guy, or go with Billy, who doesn't like the kid, and possibly give us a chance of survival. One of those options. Instead, she's like, no, I gotta stay here because you wouldn't love the kid. It doesn't matter how Billy feels about the fucking kid, Becca. It's whatever chances is to keep the kid away from Homelander. That should be your main goal, is that the kid's not raised by this psychopath. That should be your main goal. Who cares if Billy likes him? It doesn't fucking matter. Leave with Billy, hide out with the kid, and then even if Billy doesn't like the kid and it pushes him away from you at some point, at least the kid's not with Homelander. The kid has a better chance of not having a bad life. Stupid. So, you know where the scene's going. But then it seems like it's getting interesting for a second when she goes out and talks to Homelander on the porch. And she's like, no, let's not screw this up. It's a very human moment. Feels like she's really trying to get through to him. Like, listen, I know things happen between us. And I know this is a fucked up situation, but I need you to help me. And it's like he agrees to it. And I thought, you know what? This actually has a lot of nuance. I thought Homelander and Stormfront were just going to take the kid and fly away like a couple of cliche villains in a like in a Power Rangers episode. But no, like, Homelander's she's tapping into his emotions that, like, no, he knows what she's talking about because of his life. And I thought, wow, this is really well written. And then as soon as they come back to it, guess what? Homelander and Stormfront fly off with Ryan because they flew Ryan up and he saw that his whole life was a lie. Oh no, Mommy lied to me about the world. So now I'm going to leave with this guy that tried to kill me a couple of weeks ago because he's in movies and that's cool. Because the only movies I've seen are like Dirty Dancing and stuff like that, Mom's favorite movies. Maybe I don't understand children. I could be wrong here. But I remember being a kid. And I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't just leave my mother because she lied to me. Your parents always lie to you. Your parents lie about all sorts of shit. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, God. I mean, your parents lie about all kinds of shit. That's what you do to kids. You lie to them because they're kids and they don't know anything. So you have to lie to them to keep them happy because they're innocent, they're pure. But when I was a little kid, if some superhero guy that was shoving me off a fucking roof and was a dick to me was like, hey, look, your mom lied to you about everything, I wouldn't just be like, I hate you. Ryan did that to Homelander. I hate you. And now he's doing it to Becca. I hate you. Like, this kid's a shit. Like, maybe he is Homelander's kid. So, this was just horribly done. It's a cool idea that Homelander and Stormfront come and take Ryan, and Becca's like, oh my god, no, please, don't take Ryan, no, why? But it's very predictable. It makes Becca just look like an idiot. It's insane. I mean, it's there's not even words. It was just, I was laughing at it. I thought it was genuinely goofy. Like, wow, Dad, you're in movies? Yeah, I'm in a lot of movies. Wow, Dad, you have a roller coaster? Yeah, I have a lot of roller coasters. Oh boy, Mom, can I go do all this stuff? We'll have to talk about it. No, we won't. See ya, bitch. Of course, Ryan will probably start missing his mother, and there'll be some kind of reconciling, some kind of, they'll get back together and all that shit. Because apparently in the finale, it's going to be Billy and the boys versus Stormfront and Homelander. We see some footage of Billy watching Stormfront, like, flip a car with her lightning fingers. You choose to die. She's going to be electrocuting Huey like the end of Return of the Jedi. Die, you choose the pathway of death. And he'll be like, no, help me, Billy. Billy will throw, or Homelander will be like Darth Vader, he'll throw Stormfront down like there'll be a well on a farm. He'll pick her up and he'll be like, no! So, yeah, I mean, that was supposed to be a big shocking moment, but it was pretty predictable. Lamplighter was the highlight of the episode for the most part, and then he fucking died. There we go, another interesting character. Mother's Milk is like, you should go back with your family. No, I'm going to finish this. He's probably going to die. This whole season felt like they've been setting up that guy's fucking death. It was like season 1 of Game of Thrones. It was watching a guy get his head cut off in slow motion. And then Frenchie and Kimiko aren't really doing anything. They're just watching AOC to make sure she doesn't get killed off. So then we have the end sequence, which has been called the Red Wedding of the boys. This is the big moment, right? The head explosions. And everyone's like, holy shit, this last scene is fucking epic. Oh my god, the show is back. This is the most fucked up scene. Now listen, viscerally, this was a cool sequence. And I especially like how Homelander's walking through it as it happens, as the heads are exploding. And I like that everyone else is watching it on TV. I like the execution of the sequence. The execution. But I like them... how Homelander's kind of walking around like, what the fuck is going on? I like the special effects of it. I like how, like, the Deep is, like, worried his head's gonna come off. I like how Billy just goes off to the side and is like, angry Billy. Awesome. Awesome, seriously. Awesome, like, scene. No question, but here's why it's not the Red Wedding and why it's not that big of a deal. Nobody major died in that sequence. What, the guy behind Vought, his head blew up, so now the boys are fucked. Okay. The replacement for A-Train's head blows up. Who gives a shit? Nobody gives a shit about that guy. Not even... I can't think of one major character who died in there. Did anyone major die? Now, if they had blown up the heads of, like, the AOC chick, if they had blown up the head of the chick who started the boys, if she had died, if maybe... Frenchie's head would have exploded across the street. If it would have just been a shockwave and killed off, or let's say one of the big members of the Seven, not just some guy that we don't care about, what if Queen Maeve's head exploded or something like that? What if she was there? That could have been interesting. That could have been like, holy shit, but nobody major died, so it was visually an exciting moment and a well-done sequence, and I liked it, but did everyone forget what made the Red Wedding so incredible? It wasn't that it was disturbing visually, and the gore of it, which it was. It was that main characters died, and just the betrayal of it, what the phrase did to the Starks was so fucked up. There was no betrayal here. We don't even know who did the head exploding. But because people are so eager for stuff like this now, The Boys has almost become a parody of itself. We used to talk about how intelligent the show was and how it used its gore and violence in clever ways, and it almost was a send-up to this edginess. And now people are just praising edginess for the sake of it because heads are exploding, and it's great, and I love it. You know what happened? This is what happens to everything that's great. The fucking normies, man. It's the normies. The normies are loving The Boys now, and they've taken over the show, and they're going to fucking ruin it, and it's just going to go downhill from here. and they're going to praise the shit out of it, and it's going to get a bunch of spinoffs, and everyone's going to love it, and everyone's going to say it's great, even though we all know it's shitty. And every season's going to get worse, and it's just going to get more and more popular. And when you're like, hey, you know what? What happened to the show? I used to really like the show. It's going to be Game of Thrones. It's going to be Stranger Things. It's going to be every single thing like that. The normies are going to take it. They're going to control it. And then it's going to be pushed as the next big thing when it was something more than that. It wasn't the next big thing. It didn't have to be the next big thing. You know what it was that made it so great? Is that it was just good. Is that it was a well-written, well-acted, well-made show. And that's all it needed to be. Now, in a way, it's turned into the predictable blockbusters that it was parodying, that it was satirizing, that it was mocking. It's, dare I say, turned into a bit of Zack Snyder, just with better acting and better dialogue. But as far as storytelling goes, I don't think this sequence with the heads exploding was really that much better than the scene with the explosion at Congress with Superman and Batman v Superman. I think the logic was about the same. So anyone who shits on Zack Snyder and is praising this, you need to go back and praise those sequences. I mean, I don't know what to say here. I'm completely disappointed. The first 3 episodes were fine. Episode 6 was really good. Now with this episode, it doesn't even matter to me if the finale's great. The finale could be fucking awesome. Like, it could be the best episode the show's ever had. That does not redeem what they've done. The show is a mess. It's a mess. Everything's all over the place. I remember season 1, the scripts. Eric Kripke wrote a lot more of the episodes, and he directed the finale. I don't think he's directed any episodes this season. Dan Trachtenberg's not been back. Matt Shackman. And I know Eric Kripke's the showrunner, so he probably finishes all the scripts. But I'm seeing all these different writers' names. I think the show lacks focus. I think it lacks the singular vision that it had in the original season. I think it became... Maybe they did drift off from the comics too much. You know, I praised it in the first season for going its own way, but I think maybe... The comics did have more direction, and they probably should have followed it more closely, because now we're getting into that weird D&D Game of Thrones territory where you don't stick to the text and you start doing your own thing, and then you just have to rely on the storytelling of these people and not the original author of the material who thought it out over years. You know, it's not like Garth Ennis wrote this shit in like 5 days. He worked on it for a long time. And then you have this, where it just becomes a shell of itself and it just inverts. Now, some shows have dropped off in their second seasons and bounced back in their third seasons. Friday Night Lights is an example that comes to mind, where that second season was a big drop in quality, and then the last 3 seasons were great. So they could bounce back in season 3. It's very possible. I just think this whole Stormfront plot line and all this stuff just didn't work out. It wasn't great. It started out as a lot of fun, but now Stormfront's just unlikable, and she's not fun unlikable like Homelander, where I hate her, but I love to hate her, or Joffrey from Game of Thrones. She's just more like, I just don't like her. I think the actress is good, but I just find her completely unpleasant to watch, and I don't even care if she dies. It's not a thing where I'm just so excited to watch her get hers. I don't even give a shit at this point. She's just completely unbearable to watch anymore. I think the show could greatly benefit from getting rid of Stormfront. Please kill Stormfront in the finale and get back to Homelander, because she's honestly just taking away so much from the show, in my opinion. And can we just kill a few of the other characters off? Like, yeah, I don't know. Just figure something out. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. I want to give this episode a 7, just because I want to be, like, cool about it. Like, hey, you know, it did have good stuff. That last sequence is pretty cool. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the asshole here. 6.5 out of 10. I'm sorry. This was a 6.5 out of 10 episode. Even with the good shit in it, that was great. That was really fun to watch. This episode just solidified for me that the show's going to be inconsistent like this. And I was pretty soft on some of my ratings for previous episodes because I was a fan. But now I'm just pissed off. So, yeah, 6.5 out of 10, which isn't even a bad rating. I'm saying that it's adequate. But you may look at all these scenes that seem like great moments. A lot of people are going to praise this episode. It's one of the highest rated episodes on IMDb. But so is Battle of the Bastards, which if you break down the writing of that episode, it's fucking ridiculous. It's just beautiful. That's what's going to happen here. All they have to do is put in these big WTF gore moments, or these big moments like, oh my god, Homelander took Ryan, and then everyone's going to praise it. But if you actually break down these scenes and think about them and the logic of them, they don't work. And this trend is going to continue. And I promise you, this is what's going to keep happening with the show, especially now that it's so successful. All right, anyway, let's look at this Forbes article about the ratings to talk about how successful the show is. The Boys' ratings are so strong, it's challenging Netflix top hits. So we'll go down here. Amazon continues to ride the wave of The Boys, what might be considered its first bona fide original mega hit, greenlighting a third season, an after show, and a spinoff. Remember Talking Dead? Remember that bullshit? And for good reason, given the numbers it's putting up. Nielsen has been tracking streaming viewership as best it can, and releasing weekly ratings for a month now. And this is the first time a non-Netflix show's broken into the top 10, and it's nearly at the top. Here are the rankings for this past week according to Nielsen. So you have Cobra Kai, which is 2.17 billion minutes viewed. Holy shit. Lucifer, which is 1.4 billion, and then The Boys, 891 million. And then most of the other stuff is non-original content. The Office, Criminal Minds, Shameless, Grey's Anatomy, Legend of Korra. Oh god, I hate the Legend of Korra is doing well. It's notable that the top two shows, Cobra Kai and Lucifer, are technically Netflix originals, but the series that Netflix bought and is making has made new seasons of, while The Office, Criminal Minds, Shameless, Grey's Anatomy, and Legend of Korra are not Netflix originals, but licensed. Away is the only true entirely original Netflix series to make the list. But the real story is The Boys at number 3. Amazon previously reported that viewership for Season 2 of the show was close to double of Season 1, and the series seems to have been bolstered by the decision to switch it to a weekly release format. Which reminds me, there's a new episode out today I need to watch. Oh my god, I hate people who write articles on fucking websites. The season has been higher rated by critics than the first. Not this critic. And has a relevant plot to our current times, as the boys are now contending with the literal white supremacist superhero. Yeah, right there. Everyone's going to start praising this show. This show used to be like the people who were, sensitive online didn't want to fully embrace the show, and now they're going to praise it and be like, yeah, the show is relevant to our current times with white supremacy. I'm not sure how far the boys are into the comics at this point, but this is not The Walking Dead where there are 100+ issues of the source material. But Amazon seems okay with going outside the lines, which they are doing with the spinoff said to take place in a college. What? In college? Anyway, they said that it's going to go 5 or 6 seasons. And this is going to be the new Game of Thrones, whatever. And let's push for an Emmy nom for Anthony Starr's Homelander. I agree, Anthony Starr does deserve an Emmy nomination. Or a win, which they might get now with how successful this is. The Emmys might jump on the bandwagon. It's funny, Garth Ennis has to be pissed off because he wrote this comic as a fuck you to superheroes and franchises. And even this was an F you to superhero franchises and spinoffs. And what are they doing it? They've turned it into a fucking franchise with spinoffs.